Oh, let's move that forward. Okay, that's better. Okay, so we can just sit right here. Thank you. Hello, I'm Carolyn, and this is Mike, you just met. So he's going to be my table because I don't like to stand and talk and read. Is he better? Thank you very much. So the real problem about this is, first of all, to thank all of you for being here. It's wonderful, and hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of pictures on this PowerPoint. And also, I'm looking at this timer. And also, I would like to thank Creative Time for the invitation. And then I would also like to give a few moments of silence because of the cultural boycott that we were discussing today. So here they go. Okay. So what I wanted to tell you today is very long, and it's about a 40-minute lecture. So I can't actually do that. So I would like to invite you to Sucy-sur-Loire on Spring Street on Monday at 5 p.m., anybody who's interested. And we can actually do this with the time that it takes. And I'm also going to take a few moments, since we're going to do the lecture on another day, there's no problem about time right now. We don't have to be stressed out. So what I can do is answer a few questions. Someone before me asked, against what do we revolt? And where is the imagination, the political imagination? And I think that one of the big blocks that we are in is the question of seeing the problem as a problem of social change. Because social change implies the world of humans and the relations between the economy, the resources, the labor, and so on, people. That's where the problem lies, also with feminism and so forth. So I think that the move is that of many wonderful feminists, like, of course, Donna Haraway and so on, but there are many women around the world and others, non-women, working on the question of constituting as subjects non-humans, and that is fundamental for the future. And it's not the ecological approach about protecting animals. That's like protecting women. There used to be democratic constitutions that said there was universal suffrage, but we all know that many countries had women voted only after World War II. So therefore, there was no contradiction because the woman was not constituted as a subject. So one should ask oneself, what is not constituted as a subject today? For example, what would a world be if the bees were voting? And how can the bees vote? Or a strawberry, how can a strawberry vote? It's actually fundamental to not have an attitude of protection of rights, but to have an attitude of constituting as subject, which means inventing a new form of politics that involves the human only partially. And actually, even the human is not a human, because most of our body, if you study the DNA, is not human. It's not ourselves. There are many millions of parasites and other things. Okay, so that's to answer that question. The other question was about public space and private space. Well, I think they're both actually, they don't exist. That's why Mike is here, because he's a good friend. So the problem is not only that public space doesn't exist, also private space doesn't exist. Okay, but I would agree with the idea that capitalism is a religion. In 500 years, when they'll study our times, they will understand that the main concept of this religion, instead of transubstantiation and the Eucharist, was the question of the growth. What's it called? The GPL, the GDP in English. That's like a religious belief that there has to be this question. Okay, it's like the Eucharist, the Ostia. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about, but there's a few more things. We have 3 minutes and 44 seconds, is to show you some pictures. But the question of inequity. So confronting is an interesting word because it means with the forehead of another person. So there's your forehead, so we're okay. And inequity is a word that I think hides a lot of subconscious problems because inequity actually reminds one of equity, and equity reminds one of stocks and bonds and money. And equity, it's really a problem because equalis means, you know, the similarity of size. And if you put things on the level of similarity of size, you are simply using in the logic of the same numerological logic of what people usually call capitalism. So we have to discuss what is wealth. There were so many things I want to talk about, so I'm just going to go through the headings because it's 2 minutes and 44 seconds, so then I can show you something about Documenta that nobody saw. But one more thing, Fernando Garcia Dori, I loved his, I'm very happy he got this prize, and I'm very happy he's here, and it's all connected, the shepherds and the sheep and Documenta and us and the rocks and the stones, it's all one big thing. Okay, that said, the question is really wealth, you know, what is wealth? So it suggests richness as opposed to poverty, but the word poverty was not used. I find that very strange because poverty actually is something of which one is ashamed, but poverty can also be a wonderful condition if one thinks from the point of view of growth and degrowth. And the poverty in the sense of arte povera, or the poverty in the sense, yes, of degrowth, basically. So I don't find it a word that should, I think it has to be removed from the connotations with which it is. Okay, so I have to do this really fast. So just the heading. So I was going to discuss what wealth means in relation to money and numerology. Then I was going to discuss sleep and time as a revolutionary possibility, because of course our real problem is day-centrism. It's not only Eurocentrism, but day-centrism of the dominant capitalistic system. So I was going to talk about sleeping. Marx and the working day, you know, where he talks about going towards 24-hour day. The thesis is how to imagine other ways of acting, of making, of doing that address injustice and pain, rather than thinking in terms of equality or inequality, which are part of the problem, but in terms of the worldly and the importance of renewing the language you use. I don't know what that means, but I skipped something. Therefore, creative time is actually not the question. The question is creating time. Because time is like a gift. It doesn't, it's a resource which is, it never in a way exhausts itself. I'll explain on Monday. So not time that is creative, but creating time, the act of making the experience of time possible as opposed to the logic of productivity, which is why I wanted to talk about Lewis Hyde and the gift, but I can't right now. So, which is why, what's that? What does that say?
It's Bataille. It's the accursed share.
Oh, I wanted to get to Bataille and the question of waste. But Hyde and his interpretation of the gift goes right away against the idea of Marcel Mauss, actually. Marcel Mauss, the problem with Marcel Mauss is that he wrote in 1923. Where's Marcel Mauss? 1920, no, he's not here because I wanted to say that's part of the problem. It was, you know, to the exchange and then to exoticize the potlatch, you know, exoticizing the potlatch is part of the problem. Okay, so we've got to get to Documenta. Does it have Derrida in there yet? So the dépend?
Yes, and.
Ah, that's end. Okay, so there I was, La Part Maudite. And where were we? Okay, this is in Kabul in the one hotel. 22 seconds. Okay, I'm just gonna shut up. That's the one hotel in Kabul where we did part of Documenta for 3 years, but nobody knew. That's Christoph Menke teaching in Kabul. That's me and Michael Tausig working in Kabul, and so on and so forth. Goshka Machuga did the most beautiful project. This is the one in Kabul, this one, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And that's the one in Kabul Gardens, and this is Mario Garcia Torres' tea in Kabul, and ta-da. This is very important. We worked with Afghan film, and we did a whole workshop with camp and all these people, and it gives it a kind of rhythm here. That's Mariam Ghani doing it. And Francis spent like 2 years there, and it was all this stuff going on. And then we didn't even show Francis's film except for once in Kassel, because I figure that it's important to know what you can't see. All this you couldn't see in Kassel, so it wasn't for Kassel. And this is actually Mike's book, not your book, but the workshop, and there was a whole video to show you. I'll show it to you on my laptop, that's it.